Hey everybody. All right. So yeah, some of this stuff, like the meta thing, this is saying that the character set I'm using is UTF-8. Just make it bigger so you can see. So like, you know, you need the HTML tag. You don't need the attribute. You need the head tag. You don't need the meta attribute. It's helpful, and it's good because it tells the page that you're using a certain set of characters. So if you use something weird or non-standard, it won't just show up as gibberish. It'll actually read the character table and show you the correct thing.
Sometimes when we surf the internet, we figure out some pages when they showing another type of language is showing another type of not a language word. Is that related to the char set? Meta char set.
It can be, yeah. Like if you let's say you're writing a web page and it's in Arabic, right? So let's say you type some Arabic,
Oh, you can.
and you're like, Alhamdulillah. It's not. It should be joining the characters. It's not correctly, but when you. If you're using it, like if I'm typing this in one character set but then viewing it in another, it can cause encoding problems. Without getting too deep into character sets, because I do talk about this in like a few later courses, but it's generally enough. UTF-8 covers all the languages that you would ever want to type in. So if you specify UTF-8, you can use whatever language. You can do Chinese here for that.
No, right? UTF-8 is.
It's like, this is like a global standard of character encodings. Yeah, it'll cover you for really any language.
And
I'm curious, what's
the fonts, right? The font is loading the
no, it's just going to use system fonts.
Okay.
We're not explicitly loading any font. What's like a sweet, I'm going to go to Baidu, right? That's like a, all right, cool. Sorry. That's CH, right?
No. C.
Sorry, stupid, American. All right.
It's calm.
Oh, it's calm? All right. Very chill. So let's see what they do. Christ. Let's look at this. Let's look at this. Oh wait, sorry. Let's look at this view. Remember we can inspect here and see it. So their content type, text HTML, the char set is UTF-8 still.
Okay.
And look, even the title is just written in
Chinese.
Chinese, I guess. I was trying to be more specific, but cool. And so there is no, yeah, they don't have the other meta tag here. And their HTML doesn't have the lang tag.
Yeah.
It's not required, but you can see they're still using UTF-8. So this right here will get you by on whatever you need.
So the lang tag, if I type it, I was writing a Chinese page, I can type CH.
CH.
Oh, up top?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Or you can.
And like this is more to tell the browser that you're using Chinese, so it might on Google it'll ask you to translate a page.
Oh, that's
So
yeah.
stuff like that, like it'll tell the browser like,
So
I'm using
that's the part we were using for the language.
it's probably part of it. I think Google's smart enough to like read a page, and even if you don't tell it that it's in Chinese, it's gonna read the page. It's gonna know that there's Chinese on it, and it'll offer to translate. But this is just a more explicit way of saying this page is in English or whatever.
Okay.
And yeah, but once again, you don't need it. Honestly, to be perfectly honest, if you did this, like your browser's gonna render the page, right? Hi. I am a page. I'm going to save this. I'm going to call it bad because this is a bad example. This is bad. You shouldn't do this. But I just want to show you that it does work, right? So I'm going to open this up, even though it's bad. We shouldn't do it. And yeah, it's going to work. See? I am a page. Even though there's just a body tag. Hell, you don't even need the body tag.
You just say that HTML.
You just do that. It's fine. It doesn't, like, you know what I mean? I could even use tags. I could say, oh man, never. And I can refresh. And look, it's even using the formatting.
Then why are we taking the long way around?
Because there's a right way and there's a wrong way. And the wrong way might still look right, but it's wrong, right?
Yeah.
And in the end, it will come back to bite you. So by doing the boilerplate, the kind of like boring stuff, it sets you up for well, one, you're doing it the right way, so that if you hand your work over to somebody, they're not going to be confused. A lot about the web is sharing what you're working on, right? Like we're always sharing documents and projects back and forth. And if you're doing things in this non-standard way, it's going to be confusing for other people. So, and just saving a couple of lines of code is not worth the fact that this might not work in a future browser if you do it this way, right? Like there might be an update to Chrome that says if you don't have a body tag, you're screwed, right? So, probably won't happen, but it's better to insulate yourself from that by doing things the right way. Yeah, so while that works, it's bad practice, and we should, yeah.
I should have asked this question in week one, but HTML, obviously you've got to write programming for your page to be read and to be transported over the internet.
Yeah.
Why can't you just use rich text? Why couldn't you use a text document? I mean, why go through all this trouble?
Right.
Just in the simplest terms possible, why do we need to program this really cryptic way of spelling out something that we want just in terms of simple type? I mean, the exercise you gave us is a simple text exercise.
Sure.
But all of a sudden we're going through this elaborate coding process, whereas obviously you can send that document in rich text. Isn't there some way that computer protocol where computers could be made to talk to each other in that would make it more simple?
Well, I mean, there's stuff like PDF, right? Which, or even like a Word document, right? Where you can have formatting, and it works great.
What does this give us? In other words, this goes down.
Those documents kind of it breaks down when you get to complexity, where you have to make sure that the document. We'll get into responsive design later.
Right.
So you want to make sure that your page looks good on mobile and on tablet and on desktop, and you might show or hide different content based on the device the person's using to view your site. You get to things like video and audio, like more like richer applications that are not just formatting text. They're like you're dragging and dropping things. You're truly interacting with a page. And that's where I think HTML, HTML5 as a suite of technologies kind of gives you an advantage over just regular marking up of a document, right? For this contrived sort of example, maybe this would work better as just a Word document. And honestly, there's nothing ever stopping you from just putting a Word document on a server and sending someone a link to it, and like that's, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be an HTML page necessarily. Like, you could directly link somebody to a document.
That's what I mean. You answered my question, but I'm just trying to figure out why we're taking the long way around. There must be some value.
Yeah, well, I think this is more about building fundamentals so that you can get to the stuff where you're like, oh, okay, now you'll kind of see why later. But yeah, you have to kind of get these things under your belt. So looking at the example, let's pull back. So I want to get the test thing fresh in my head again. Okay, so this. I got my name. I wonder, did anybody actually just put that there? Probably. And then we've got these three things: about me, my work, contact me. Welcome to my first webpage, some text, and then a list, and then some formatting, and this thing here. Actually, there was like an error there. Somebody fixed that, which was which was kind of nice. Okay, so let's look at the solution, or my solution here. Once again, there's more than one way to do this, so my solution is my solution, not the solution. Although,
Will you email us this one?
No. Yeah, I will. Absolutely.
You already handed the homework, so I think we should get like an example.
Totally. Yeah. I'll put this on the. It's not on the website, but I'll put it up and I'll post it on the notes. Cool. So, let's pull them side by side, sort of. Okay. So after the boilerplate, the head tag, and I have a title. Remember, the title is what shows up in the tab in the browser, right? That's it. Once again, you don't actually need the title. Your page will still render, but it's good to have it. I think if you don't have a title, it just says untitled document, which is kind of like just lame. You should title your documents. That's also a big thing for search engines. Search engines use this as like the headline for your for what shows up on Google or whatever you use, right? Okay, so when I was looking at this, I was kind of like, okay, my name and this sort of, these navigation items are kind of like to me it feels like something that would be on every page. Like if this were a website, like these are kind of global items. When you think about web pages, a common pattern is you have like your logo and navigation in the top, and then your contents in the middle, and then at the bottom you might have another navigation and some links or something, right? This is a very common web page pattern. It's not the sexiest or most experimental layout that you might use, but it's worked. Like a lot of times people see that, oh, web pages all look the same, as if that's a bad thing. Like, you know what else looks the same? Books. Books have a cover and an inside leaf, and they have some blank pages and a copyright. I mean, there's a common pattern to books. And with a web page or a website, it's kind of similar. There's some common elements, like you got a cover and the back, and So in the web page, a nav is a very common thing, and the nav is typically inside of a header, right? We call it a header because like your head is at the top, the body is here, and then the feet are there, right? So it's like a human somewhere.
So does head always exist on top, even though which page I switch?
Not necessarily. Well, because if you look at the spec on the header tag, which I used here to delineate this part, right? The header can actually be used in other places in your content, but it's typically if you have sub content, right? So let's say you have a page where you have multiple pieces of maybe you have multiple blog posts on one page, and maybe each blog post has its own little header, right? Each post might have like some, the data was published, the title, the author, and all this header information. And then it might have a little body with the actual excerpt of the blog. And then you might have a footer with like the tags that are in the blog post, what category it's in. So each one of those discrete elements can almost be viewed as its own header, body, and footer. So if you have multiple of those on a page, you might have multiple headers on your page. It's actually accepted to have multiple headers on a page. What you wouldn't see is you wouldn't necessarily see, let's say you were doing a more like experimental navigation, and you had your navigation at the bottom, right, and your logo at the bottom. I wouldn't call that a header, right, because the point of the header is that it's before the content. Yeah, you know what I mean? I would probably put that in a footer or just a regular div, right? If you don't know what it should be, you can just use a div. That's generally the way we do it. So for this, I saw this stuff and I figured, okay, this feels like the header. Like this feels like what would be at the top of the page, like the most prominent stuff. It's like, that's me, this is the nav that I'm doing. Inside of that, I'm using an unordered list for my navigation. Unordered because there's no order to these things, it really doesn't matter. And then I wrapped each element inside or each text chunk inside of an anchor tag, right? I don't know where I'm linking to yet, so I just use this hash, which is kind of a placeholder that just means like this page, right?
Could you put anything else there? And it was, because I didn't use a hash, I didn't know what to put there, so I just put www.
It might be like Oprah.com, and that if somebody clicked that link, it would take them to Oprah.com. Obviously that wouldn't make much sense here, but yeah. We're going to talk about linking in a minute, but so that's example of anchor tag inside of unordered list, inside of a list item, inside of an unordered list, inside of a nav. You might be thinking, well, it's kind of overkill having the nav and the UL, right? Like, why do I need that? And I think, like, to some extent, you see this pattern a lot where you have the nav tag, and then inside nav just stands for navigation, right? Just so we know. Inside the nav, you'll have this unordered list with your navigation items in it. It is kind of overkill. Like, the nav tag is a relatively new thing. We didn't have this like 5 years ago. You would have just used an unordered list, or maybe wrap it in a div. But this does give more semantic meaning to what we're doing, right? When I say nav, now if I'm a human, I can tell this is a nav, and if I'm a robot, right, or I'm just reading your page as a robot would, I can tell very easily this is a navigation because you wrote nav here. So it's about the document is expressing itself better, right, through the use of these tags. Before, if I just had UL, I don't know if this is a nav or just a list of links. I have no idea. It could just be, friends of the page. But with the nav, I know this is a navigation for the page.
When we're writing code, are we
Yeah.
primarily writing for the robot that's going to read the page, or are we writing with the notion that some human is going to be reading our page?
Column A, column B. There's definitely, there's definitely stuff that you do so that search engines will look at you more favorably. But I think one thing that, especially Google has tried to do is the rules that they have for what makes you high in search engines are just really kind of common sense rules for writing good content or making a good website, right? So it's like your content should be relevant. People should link to it. It should talk about a certain topic, but not do it in a way that's just spamming a bunch of keywords all in a paragraph. Like we've all seen link bait articles. So a lot of those rules, as long as you're not trying to game the system, you'll be okay. So then it comes to writing for humans, and in that, a lot of times you'll be working on projects together. You'll be sharing your code. Plus, just the fact that anybody can look at your web page and see this code means that you should probably write it responsibly. Just because I don't know, it could reflect poorly upon you if you have badly written code. And yeah, like I said, if you want to pass it off to somebody else, using accepted standards and making things easy to follow is always a good move. I think one of the best kind of axioms I've heard as a younger programmer is you should write your code as if the next person who's going to read it is a psychotic axe murderer, right? So you want to write in a way that they're going to read it and be like, this guy's cool. I'm not going to take his life brutally. I'm not going to brutally end his life. So that's a good way to do it. So we got this header, and now I use the article tag here. Article because this feels like a discrete atomic unit of content, which is what an article is. I could have used a div here. That's probably the only other option. Maybe section. Did anybody else use anything? There's the main tag. Could do it. I think article makes sense. Wait, what did you say you use?
What?
Did somebody use another tag? You use section? That works. That works. Section, yeah, sure. It's all very subjective. It really is. It's more about being consistent than anything, I think. If you decide that you're going to use an article on this page, then if you're writing similar content on another page, you should use article. But I think this makes sense. If I was reading this, I could be like, got a header, a nav here. Oh, cool, this is an article of content. I don't even need to read it because now I know that it's just an article of content. Yeah.
Well, I got something that I was very pleased that when I finished writing my programming, I got something that looked exactly like your example.
Yeah.
But I didn't know to use, and I didn't use div, I didn't use article, I just went with headings and paragraphs until I got to the next thing, and then I figured out a way to do that. But I didn't use article and heading, and I didn't know that I should have. So this is what I'm trying to get my mind around.
Yeah. I think what you're essentially doing here is grouping your content together and organizing it, right? So that if there are things that are similar, then they're grouped semantically using HTML, right? So, without looking at someone else's solution, it's hard to say. But you might be tempted, say, to have, this could have been in a P tag too. I don't know why I picked div. I think it was more because the P infers some formatting, and I didn't necessarily want any formatting on it. But and it's not necessarily a paragraph. It's really just a piece of content. So that's why that's there. But this is all grouped together. In the article, so from this welcome all the way down to to this, like even really the formatting thing is really all part of the same group of content. Sorry. Everything from welcome down to this formatting here is all kind of one thing, right? So I think your kind of instinct there should be, I'm going to group that, right? Keep that in a discrete chunk because I might need to move it somewhere, or if I needed to apply some style to that section, I can do it on one whole chunk. I think it'll make more sense how to group things too once we get more into CSS and styling, because then it really makes sense to group because you want to apply styles to those groups, right? But just, I guess it's important to know that as you group your content together, it gives you tighter control over what you can do with it later, right?
So the article and then doesn't really do anything to your text, it's just for you.
Exactly. It doesn't, the formatting does not change. The base definition for article, main, section, div is the same. It's no margin, no padding, fluid width, there's really nothing. There's no formatting. It's just displayed block, and that's it, right? It's just a very basic container. It's what you do with it afterwards that makes it useful. Really, this is only useful for marking up and grouping your content together. Yeah. And this is like pretty important to understand. It's something that you get better with time. Like I think a lot of times, at first you're kind of afraid to use the tags, so you'll just use the bare minimum. Once you get more comfortable, what you see a lot is people start over tagging stuff, right? Like you'll want to start using tags on everything, so you'll end up with this soup of multiple tags, which is kind of like an impulse that you'll have to train yourself away from, because it does get tempting to, I need to add some style. I'll just wrap everything in a div and style it that way. But you'll see why that gets hairy. For now, know that group your content using semantic tags, and you'll be generally good, right? So moving on from this stuff. So this first line, welcome to my first webpage, feels like a title. So I went ahead and gave it the H1 designation, heading 1. The next thing was just a paragraph. This thing blatantly says it's a subtitle, so that should mean H2, duh. Now remember, you can have multiple H2s on a page, but you generally want one H1. This should be what your page is about. And in this page, it is. Welcome to my first webpage. Another block of text. Then there's this list, right, of my favorite restaurants in the Flatiron. I mean, lunch spots. We use the OL, which is the ordered list. Did anybody use this? Yeah? This just, all it does is it gives numbers to your content. And interesting, through CSS, so right now it's just numbers, right? It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Using CSS, you could change that to use Roman numerals or like ABCD or whatever. Maybe other stuff too. Then at the bottom, this thing was really just to kind of get you to look up and use some of these formatting tags. For bold, I used the strong tag. You could use the B tag. Once again, we talked about that last time. Strong is probably implying more semantic meaning than B, the B tag. In this case, honestly, it probably should be a B tag now that I'm looking at it.
What's the difference between strong and B tag?
So B is just saying that it's bold.
Okay.
It's very blatantly saying that this thing should be formatted bold. Strong is saying this content is somehow more important. So strong is saying not only should this be rendered more prominently, but it's also more important in the weight of the importance of content on your page.
So if I load the CSS style sheets, they will automatically load the font of bold apply to that?
Yeah,
And
strong
also
by
if I
default
write
is
JavaScript. Somehow they know that content with strong tag.
I mean, this doesn't even depend on JavaScript.
Okay.
If you write a strong tag in your code, and unless something's overriding it, right? Like, but if you have a basic website and you use a strong tag, it'll show up bold. Yeah, every time. So yeah, the difference once again, strong. The content inside of strong should actually be legitimately important, right? If you're using a B tag, it's just saying it's bold. So honestly, I think I dropped the ball on this one. If you use the B tag, you got it right. I think this is wrong. So let me show you an example. Let's make this a B tag because it's kind of embarrassing as it is. So you can bold. How about this? Do you guys see?
Yes.
Now it makes sense. That's the difference between strong and bold, right? The B tag is just saying, this is bold content. The strong tag is saying the content inside of this tag is important. And in this sense, it is, because formatting is very important.
Does the search engine pay more attention to the word strong?
Yeah, it would. Yeah. Conversely, if it sees bold, it's going to not really care as much.
So they always gonna look in the same format. Like,
Strong and bold?
Yeah.
This tag and this tag? Yeah, by default, they're the same. But you can change that, and people often do. Like when we'll talk about CSS. In CSS, you could say that you want strong to be normal, if you want, right? You could do that. I don't know why you would do that, but you can do whatever you want. Let's see, where do I have this open anywhere, so we can see it? It's gonna open over here, and I have to drag it over. Ugh, worst. Okay, there. So we can see formatting is very important. It's now bold, as is bold. They're the same size and everything, and that's it. And then we also have this italicize, underline, strike through. So the italicize, notice I'm using an M. This is short for emphasis or emphasis. There's also the I tag, which is italic. It's kind of the same thing as strong and italic. They're kind of used interchangeably, though. So, if you need to italicize something, pick one and stick to it. I personally I like M better just because it's more meaningful to me, emphasis. And then strike through, del. You probably had to look this up. Did anybody get this? Strike through? Yeah?
Well, look it up.
Yeah, no, exactly. You have to look it up. I mean, I would expect anyone to just know that. But yeah, there is a strike through. And then that kind of ended the article. Here, let's minimize it a little bit. And then at the bottom here, you see, where's my cursor? So I use this footer tag. Did anybody use footer tag? Yeah?
Yeah.
Correct usage of footer. Because this is the bottom of the page. Typically on a website, when you look at the structure of most web pages, the footer is where you got your copyright, your links, your all rights reserved, all that, and that's pretty much it. So that's a good example of using a footer. And footer, like header, can be used multiple times on a page as long as it's used, semantically within the context. If something has a header, it should probably have a footer, and vice versa. There are exceptions to every rule, but I think that's a good rule of thumb to go by in the beginning. So yeah, that's that. Any other questions on this stuff? Does this make sense? Is it clear? I feel like I glanced at probably 3 or 4 of the responses, and they all seemed to be pretty well done. So I think you guys mostly got it. That's good. So all right, good. That means you need to be confused, clearly. If you understood that so well. Maybe we should go. All right. So today I want to talk about some stuff. I did have a couple of things I wanted to kind of backtrack on though. One, I don't know if I made this clear, but so we're all familiar with HTML5 as a concept, right? HTML5. It's that thing that lets you do cool stuff on the web, right? Like animation, transitions, video, right? That's HTML5. It's like the thing that replaced Flash, right? It's good on mobile phones and tablets. That's HTML5. But I think the key thing to understand is that HTML5 is really 3 component technologies. It's HTML, this, what we're learning, HTML. It's CSS, which we're going to learn about today. And it's JavaScript, which we'll learn about later. HTML structures our documents. CSS gives them style. and JavaScript gives them behavior and interactivity.
Yeah.
Is that cool? So we understand that. 3 pillars. Without one, it falls. All right, cool. I'm glad we sorted that out. So there's another note that I wanted to add as like a prologue here. This is more of just like a kind of a technical thing that I just want to clear up, because sometimes I use terms that, like, maybe you don't know what they are. So I just want to talk about paths. Do you guys know what paths are? Or paths? Paths? Path. Well, like, you know what a path is in real life, right?
Yeah.
It's like something. No, not. Okay. It's a train that takes you to New Jersey. Yes.
I live in New Jersey.
Okay, so you know the path. But like the word path, right? It just means like it's like a route that you take, right? It's like a journey. It's a trail. Trail is a good way of looking at it. So when we talk about a path in the context of the web or the internet, what we're talking about is the location of a file, right? Or in some cases, location of a directory, a file or a directory, right? And there's generally 2 ways to refer to a path. There's absolute and relative, all right? So this is an absolute path. We say it's absolute because this is the sort of one true way to locate this resource, right? This is, no matter what site you're on, if you use this link somewhere, it's going to pull this file, right? It doesn't matter where your file is, it's always going to pull this same thing. A relative path is one that is relative to something else, right? In the case of a website, you're typically relative to the page that you're working on. Let's just do a quick example so we don't confuse the living daylights out of everybody. All right, so first I just need an image. Oh, shit, I just unlocked, sorry. Yeah, I think my delicate connection here. Oh, shit. What just happened? Ugh, classic. I feel like an IT guy right now. Okay, we're good? And everything's gone. Wonderful. Awesome. Great. Cool. It's all over here. Seriously? Dude. Yeah, everything's gone. Oh, man. It's so stupid. I like barely touched this thing and now they're all screwed up. Okay. Oh, wow. Wait. I have 3 monitors up for some reason.
What?
Yeah. There's like...
Yeah, I found that you have 3 more.
No, I don't. Wait. This is weird. Now it still thinks I have 2 monitors on.
What?
This thing's stupid.
What?
I think it's because I unplugged it and then plugged it back into the wrong port, maybe? Does it work? Come on! Hey everybody. Oh, this is annoying and weird. Shit. It's like so typical. Technology. Screwing me up. Okay, I have one solution to this. Oh. It's not that. Alright, just like, I don't know, everyone text somebody you love right now. What, the laptop? No way. I don't restart my laptop. Oh, okay. Where was I? So this quick digression on paths. So what I want to do, let's take an image. One of my favorite websites when I'm just trying to work up a layout is this site. It's called placehold.it. And basically, if you want a placeholder image, so let's see. Do you see this URL? It says placehold.it/theme. 350 by 150. And when I do that, this is an image that's 350 pixels wide by 150 pixels tall. It's just cool for, what's the word? Like dummying up images, right? So if I wanted something that was,
Positioning only.
what's that?
For positioning only.
Yep, exactly. Yep. Some FPO art. So I might want something that's 400 by 400. And there we go. Now I have my image. So I'll just save this down. I'll put it on. I'm working off my desktop right now because I'm a cowboy, and we'll just call this image.png. Okay. So let's just pull back to this file that I was working on. And let's say I want to include this image, right? I want to include it in the header. I'll put it right here. I'm going to do an image tag. The way you refer to this is inline tag. It was on the last episode. It was on I don't remember the slide number, but it's one of the inline tags. And this represents an image, right? So the way that you link to an image, or when I say link, when you see an image on a web page, that image is not actually inside the web page. It's actually referenced. It's a link, right? The image lives in another file, the HTML file is in a file, and the HTML is just linking to the image, and it shows up in your page, right? Is that clear, that concept? It should be, right? Okay, cool. So the way we say where our file is we do this. Source, src equals, quotes, open and close. That's how you link an image, right? So what's the image that what did I call it?
400 by 400? Or was it?
No, what did I called it something?
Image.
I just called it image?
Yeah.
Okay, so image.png. So is this an absolute path or a relative path?
It's not.
Relative
It's
test?
relative path?
It's relative.
Relative path
What? What's it relative to?
to the file next to the HTML file.
To the HTML file, exactly. So wherever this HTML file is,
The next to it.
this had better be in that same directory,
Yeah,
right? Relative. So in my case, my HTML file lives on desktop, right? It's on this desktop and it's called sample.html. So this file, image.png, has to be in the same directory or it's not going to get picked up, right? So I'm going to save this, look at it, and there's the image. Beautiful. Except not beautiful, but it's there. Now, let's say that I wanted to organize my files a little better, and I want to put image.png into a folder called images, right? Because if you have a bunch of HTML files and a bunch of images, it's nice to organize them so that you can find them easier, right? It's like you guys organize your files, hopefully. As you can see from my desktop, I am maybe not the best at organizing files, but do as I say, not as I do. So let's say we want to create a folder called images. So I'm going to do images/image. Does that make sense, what that is doing? I'm saying inside of an images folder, you will find a file called image.png. I'm going to save this. What's going to happen now?
It's going to break. It's going to break the path because it's not, you haven't put it
Right.
forward.
There's nothing there, right? So let's go to the page and let's see it break. Classic.
Yeah.
See this little broken, it's even a little picture of an image that's ripped up, right? So it's telling you that something's broken. So the way we can fix that is create a folder, exactly. So we go to the desktop, Command-Shift-D for all the bosses. Create a new folder, call it images. I probably already have one called images. I don't. I'm going to drag this into there and then refresh this page. And there it is.
It's not like you gave it, I mean, usually when you are giving a path to where a folder lives, you're telling it that it's on the desktop, and then it's in a folder, and then it's in another folder, and that's where the file lives.
Right.
You just put the name of the file. How does it know that it's in fact on your desktop?
This is a relative path. It's relative to
Your
the
computer.
HTML page.
I'm sorry, I still don't understand it.
So the HTML page's location is users, Darius, desktop, sample.html. So by saying that, when I give the source attribute, by default, it uses the current HTML directory as the base path. So then it's going to take, unless you specify an absolute path, it's going to look in the current directory for whatever's in the source. So I'm going to give you an example. You can actually be more explicit about your relative paths. So this is a little thing. So let's go here. I'm going to do this. // Okay? This is a notation that says start at this folder. It's basically the exact same thing as what we had. It's saying use this current file as the base path for what I'm looking at. All right? That's it. Just a // And let's save this and look at it, make sure it works. Works. Because I'm using the current. Now this, like I said, this is the same thing as writing it the other way. But the reason I wanted to do this is I want to show you something else. So the dot means this folder right here. This folder. So then I do a / to separate the dot. So it's inside this folder, which is a dot. You'll find another folder called images. Inside of that folder, you'll find a thing called image.png. That's all it's there. So if dot means this folder, does anybody know what .. would mean?
Wow.
Shit. .. Just come on, use your brains. If dot is this folder,
Next folder.
what's ..
The folder before that.
That's the only thing it could be.
Yeah.
Well, slow down. You can't do .. That's just crazy. So dot is this folder. .. is my parent folder.
Yeah.
The parent, right?
Oh, you can.
So what's okay? Let's slow down. Let's not lose ourselves here. What is, in the case of this file here, what is the current folder that I'm in right now? Users, Darius, desktop, right? Does everybody understand that? That's the current directory that I'm in right now. So what's the parent directory of users, Darius, desktop? It's not a trick question.
What? Darius.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you would say that this is the current directory I'm in. Users, Darius, desktop. The parent of that is just users, Darius. That's the parent.
But isn't Darius a sub-file of users?
So what's the parent of Darius?
Is users.
Correct.
Right.
So yeah, true. But if I say,
So
maybe I wasn't being
Darius
so.
Darius is the parent of desktop.
Yeah.
Users is the parent of Darius. So you said users Darius is the parent of desktop. So is that what the double dots mean?
It's the first parent, right? It's the first parent. If you look at it this way, this is my parent. Oh, so if desktop is me, right? What's my parent? Users Darius. What's my grandparent would be Darius. Would be users. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay. So we're currently in users Darius desktop, right? That's the path.
Right.
So desktop is the current directory. So what's the parent directory?
I'm only looking. Whatever's bound by the forward slashes is what I'm thinking of as a file or a directory, as you call it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, each of these are directories. Like users is a directory.
Right.
Inside of users is a directory called Darius.
Right.
Actually, if you look at the file hierarchy, it'll probably make more sense. So
that's what I'm thinking of.
right.
File hierarchy.
So
In which
robot
case
is my computer. Macintosh HG is the hard drive. Inside of that is a folder called users. And then there's this special folder called Darius, which is my home folder. And then inside that is a whatever folder called desktop.
Right.
And then inside of desktop is where that sample.html file is, right? So what's the parent of desktop?
Darius, I would say.
Exactly.
But then you gave the name of two files, Darius and users for the parent.
Well, the way we specify when we say the parent, the parent of desktop is Darius.
Okay.
You could also say it as the parent of desktop is users Darius. That's a more complete way of saying it because I'm giving the grandparent and then the parent,
Okay.
right? I mean, if I wanted to be really specific, I could say robot Macintosh HG users Darius. That's the parent of desktop, but that's just crazy. Don't do that. Yeah, I see where I slipped up there. Yeah, so Darius is the parent of desktop, and then users is the grandparent. But if you want to use the full path, you could
Okay.
you could say the whole thing. Okay, so back to the example to show that. So now you remember I did that dot dot thing, right?
So what's that?
There is no dot dot dot. He made that up.
Is that a grandparent?
Well, no, we would actually do. Wait, why is my Sublime not opening? Oh, there it is. Great. So when we just had dot slash, it was looking in the desktop folder for a folder called images, right? So when we have dot dot, which is go up a level, right? Go to the parent. Where is it going to look for this images directory?
Desktop and images.
So where's it going to look? Like, where would I have to move my images folder for it to be seen here?
Users.
Desktop. Desktop.
In the Darius.
Yeah, the user. Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
In the Darius.
there's.
Yeah, that's yeah.
From
Because we have. Oh shit! Sorry. Oops.
users to
Oops. I have too much stuff here. So yeah, users. Mine not. Nope. Not. There we go. Sorry, I'm gonna like drag stuff around on accident. There's whoa desktop. Sorry. There we go. I just have way too much stuff in here. So I'm gonna move the images folder up a level. Oh god, I don't even know how I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna move it just directly, whatever, into the Darius directory. And then try this again.
Yeah.
And it works. So that's an example of a relative path. We're saying you can say go up a level. Now if I wanted to go up 2 levels, I wouldn't do dot dot dot. That was a nice try. I would actually do this. So dot dot means go up. So dot dot slash is go up a level. So I'm just saying go up a level, then go up another level, and then look in for images, and then image.png. So it basically means go up 2 levels. So if I'm inside of desktop, I would go up 1 to Darius, and then up another one to users. So let's try this. I'm gonna move it inside the users directory. Oh man. All right. Stop clicking. I don't even know where the users directory is.
We should go to.
Okay, images, and let's move it. See if it works. Might not. Christ. Okay. Oh man, requires an administrator name and password. Trust me, it works. Actually, I could authenticate, I think. Oh yeah, let's do it. Nice. And it works. How cool is that? So now we have a file that's, 2 levels up. Yep. Dot dot slash images image. So that's paths, right? There's also absolute paths. So an example of an absolute path would be like Google, the image on google.com. Copy. Nope. Let's open link in new tab. Yeah, there's the Google logo. I'm going to copy the Google logo path, and I'm going to just paste it into my image. Dude, why is this thing taking so long? There we go. So this path is relative, right? Because it's relative to my document. If I move this document and I didn't update this link, it would break. Because this thing's always looking in the same place for it. So let's do this. Absolute path. no matter where this document lives, this link will work because it's absolute. And I'm going to refresh my thing. Google. Now, I'm pulling Google's logo off of their website, which is, I don't know. It's cool because it's Google. If you try to do this to somebody else's website, I've seen this happen before where you'll steal an image off someone else's website and they find out you're doing it, and then they'll like replace that image with something really nasty or terrible. So this is called hot linking. It's generally a bad practice. If you want the image, save it down locally and do it that way. More showing you how to use an absolute path. Absolute path. We saw relative. Yeah, so there we go. There's actually another kind of modification on the absolute path, and that is, so if you put a slash, what is the path? Users, Darius, desktop. So you see how it started with a slash? This slash is a special, like when it starts with the slash, it's a special notation. And this means we go to the root. The root directory is the highest up directory you can go. Remember that your directory is a tree, right? So there's actually a top to it. And that top is root. Everything stems from here. Generally on your computer, they make it hard to see the root. In our case, that is this, right? When you go to Macintosh HD, that's root, right? This, I mean, if they just called it slash, it wouldn't be very user-friendly, right? So they call it Macintosh HD, and it makes it much more user-friendly. But even if we look in here, here's our users directory, right? So slash users. Inside users, there's these people. So I do slash Darius. Obviously, a slash is separating our directories. So now, if I do this, starting with the slash, meaning start from root, and then work your way down. Oh wait, I moved the images folder, didn't I? I moved it into users, didn't I? So that's, let's try that, and there it is, it's back. So this is kind of this would be considered an absolute path, because it's, no matter where this file lives, this path is actually always going to work. Because what this path says is look in the very top of the hierarchy and then look in 2 folders deep and find this file. So if I were to move this HTML file, it's still going to be looking at the uppermost directory. No matter where it is, no matter how deep it is, it's always going to find that image. So this is kind of, I would say, my preferred way of referencing things. If you're using the HTTP stuff, every time you do that, you have to actually call a website, right? Like when I had the Google image in here, I'm actually making another request to Google to get that logo, right? Because it's not, I don't have it locally. It's the internet. I'm pulling something. But if I do this and grab the image locally, I don't have to go over the internet to get it, which is a minor point, but it does save. Can save speed a little bit, which we don't get into optimization too much, but it's nice also when all of your files are in sort of a self-contained area, and you can say, this whole project is my website, this one directory, instead of having 50 directories strewn out all over the place. Generally, you want to keep your files close to each other. If you have an index file, then your images should be, you should have an images directory probably in the same directory, not 50 levels up, or like this is a bad idea. You wouldn't want to put your images here. You want to put everything close to where the files are, right? Which is the way we had it initially. So anyway, that's a note on paths that took entirely too long, but it's an important concept. This is one of those fundamental things that I feel like people gloss over, or that you assume you know, but no one ever really takes the time to think about it. How are files related on a file system? I mean, they're obviously, it's a tree hierarchy thing, but the way we refer to paths is going to come in, it's going to be pretty relevant here shortly. So let's fly through to This is going to be the first lecture on CSS. I like how we're beginning an hour in. Whatever. CSS for noobs. We're going to do two. I realized that last lesson was called HTML1. I just never called it HTML because, I don't know. I think I'd assumed last year that there would be another unit on HTML, but it turns out it's not as hard for people to grasp. CSS is there's a lot more to it. With CSS, we'll get into animation, transitions, responsive design, so it requires a little more information. So what the hell is CSS? CSS stands for, oh man, hold on, let me just move my communiques. This guy actually is the guy who proposed the CSS spec. I didn't just pull some random image. So CSS was proposed thousands of years ago, or maybe in 1994, by this guy, Hakon Grimle. I don't know how to say his name. Many people do. What?
Is that mine? L-I-E?
No, that's his name. This is actually the guy who first proposed CSS.
Where's he from?
Oh man, I'm gonna go with Sweden.
Yeah, what's that?
I'm gonna go with Sweden, but I have no idea. It might be Finn. I don't know. I probably should have done more research on this guy. Yeah, they could. Yeah, I don't know. Really. Anyway, he's the one who blessed us with this. So what is CSS? CSS is this bizarre, arcane, confusing language that's used to format HTML, right? So far we did our markup, right, where we took a document and we gave it tags, and it's ugly, right? Who thinks that document's pretty? Good, nobody. That document's ugly. So using CSS, we can make it less ugly. So things like layout, colors, fonts, spacing. When I say fonts, that includes typography. So things like your character spacing, leading, all that. The CSS specification is formally maintained by the W3C, which we learned about last time. They also maintain HTML spec and a couple other things. Some buzzwords that you might have heard about. CSS3. CSS3 is part of HTML5. So when we said HTML5 is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, specifically it's CSS3. CSS3 gave us some cool stuff like animations, transitions, what else? Specifically keyframe animations, which are pretty cool and really involved, and a few other transformations like scaling, shearing, rotating in 3D space, a lot of stuff like that. And all of this is a core part of HTML5. A lot of the interesting animation stuff that you might have seen is using CSS3. I feel like I have. Do I have an example? Yeah, some examples. Hold up. Oh yeah. That's hardware acceleration. Yeah, you know what? We'll pull examples up later. I feel like it's important to show you cool stuff that you can do with this, but I didn't take the time to do that, so we'll do it. I mean, you could also research it yourself. I'll come back to that. So that's what is CSS. Next thing, references. These are important. This cheat sheet's pretty helpful. You can print it out. Yeah, cheat. No, you don't cheat. Well, yeah, I mean, it's like a quick, easy way to get information about something. A cheat, I guess? Yeah, that's references. The W3C reference, W3C, they maintain the spec, so they're like the guys to go to, right? This one's actually particularly good because it divides it up by useful things. Like, if you want to change color, here's the CSS stuff you need to know for color. Background and borders, basic box, text decoration, fonts, etc., etc., etc. So it's nice that it buckets it into useful things. And then this shorthand, we'll get into this in a minute. I just wanted to keep it here because I think it's cool, it's well done. There's a couple ways to write CSS, and there's like a short way and a long way, and sometimes the short way is just much better. Oh wait, where was it? I had one. What was that, guys? I don't have it. Anyway, I'll pull it back later. Okay, so some key features of CSS. So I think this is the most important thing. It lets you change the way a page looks without actually changing the HTML. Trip off that. So you write the HTML, and as long as your HTML is semantically marked up and also has some built-in flexibility, if you grouped your content appropriately, then you should be able to just swap out a CSS file and have it look completely different, which is pretty cool. That might be because you want it to look different seasonally, or maybe you just want to refresh your look, right? It's also nice because you can have two different people working on different aspects of your project. You might have someone who's more design-oriented doing just the CSS. You might have somebody who's maybe more of a programmer or just a different designer doing the HTML, right? So it's good separation of concerns. You'll find that that's a big thing throughout any kind of programming that you ever do, is separating the concerns. The structure of the page is here, the style is here, we don't combine them. Because when you combine them, it gets hard to unravel them. It's like this ball of yarn. The other thing that's important is that, so the styles that you attribute to an HTML element are inherited. So if you style the parent, then all the children get that as well, right? Because remember, there's this parent-child relationship. So the child inherits their parent's properties unless they're otherwise specified, okay? So this is just some background. Whatever, how do I use it? It's a good question. So this is a basic CSS declaration. We're going to break this down. And what this does is this code makes the text of all H1 elements white and makes their background color blue. All right? That's it. So what this is called is a rule. Call it a CSS rule. So a rule is made up of one or more, or actually there could be zero, but let's say one or more declarations. This is a declaration. I'm declaring something. I'm saying color of this element is white. Or I'm saying I'm declaring the background color is blue, right? These are declarations inside of a rule, right? We can further break up the declaration into a property and the property's value, okay? Properties like color, background color, margin, padding, etc. Those are the things that were listed on that W3C reference page, right? And it gives you, the properties are all the things that you can change, right? The properties of an element. Values can be, the values depend on the properties, right? So if I'm talking about a color, then this value is either going to be one of the hard-coded colors or a hex value that we learned about day one. If I'm talking about a margin, then the unit would be in either pixels or ems or percentages or something. Usually use pixels. And then some properties have values that are only for that property. Like, do you guys remember when we talked about display types? How we have div tags are displayed block, right? Whereas span tags are displayed inline, strong tags inline. If I were to change this, I would say, or I'll just edit this because I have it here. Display is my property name. I separate it with a colon and then a space, and then I give my value. And the value, H1s by default, does anyone know what an H1 by default, what its block style is? I mean, what its, sorry, give the fucking answer away. Does anyone know what its display style is by default? Is it block, inline, inline block? It's block, yeah. Block. And then to end a declaration, we use a semicolon. It's like end of sentence, semicolon. You can't, like, syntax is very important here. So memorize this syntax. The part that's up here, I actually didn't write this here, I should, where it says H1, This is called our selector. So the whole thing is a rule. This is a selector. These are each declarations. Declaration is made up of a property and a value. And then the property and the value are separated by a colon and terminated by a semicolon. Syntax is very important. If you do this, it's wrong. Breaks. Fail. You lose. You get nothing. It's really wrong. Similarly.
Those symbols are brackets.
Sorry.
The
Whoa, weird. It got smaller instead of bigger. Sorry, which one?
So the symbols that bind the rule.
Yeah, that's the
Right.
Hitchcocks, the curlies. Yeah,
Yeah.
the curly ones. Yeah.
So where should we put this? It's
That is an outstanding question. So there's 3 different ways of implementing CSS. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that rule that we just looked at and we're going to implement it all 3 ways, okay? So let's go back here real quick. Let me just delete this because that's crap. I was also, by the way, so background color. If we do this, it won't work. Fail. Oh, and this is another thing. This I noticed this trips up like. So in like English, right? There's a concept of uppercase and lowercase, right? Uppercase and lowercase, and like. Sometimes you can use uppercase, sometimes you use lowercase, right? Depending on the sentence. In CSS, your properties, your declarations, are what we call case sensitive, right? So the case matters. Therefore, if you do this, wrong. Wrong.
So always lowercase.
Yeah, use lowercase, always lowercase. Your declarations should also be lowercase. There are some exceptions. We'll get into that later. Generally, though, if you just make everything lowercase, your life is so much easier. But these have to be lowercase, right? And this trips up a lot of people if you're not used to like cases of letters. But just keep your hands off the shift and the caps lock keys, and you'll be good. Okay? So, correct. All right. So let's take this declaration. And or I guess I don't even really need it. So there's 3 ways of implementing. Good, bad, ugly. Okay? I'm actually going to start with ugly because I feel like you should see it and then understand why it's ugly. Okay. So let's go back to our little file. That takes forever to pull up for some reason. Jeez. What do I do to you? Okay. So the ugly is just throwing it in the HTML. This is actually called an inline style. Inline style. It's bad practice. You're only allowed to do this if you've been doing this for years and you know for some reason that you're allowed to do this. Otherwise, just don't do it. It's a bad idea. Why am I showing you this? Because you should know. You should just know.
You see a lot of pages were running this.
It's the worst. It's just bad. Don't do it. So let's try it out. So we have this. I have my H1 here. Welcome to my first web page, and I'm gonna just totally do it. I'm gonna do it. Style equals, right? Style. Remember, H1 is a tag or an element. We can use both of these words interchangeably. It's fine. Style is what we call an attribute. Okay? Tags can have attributes. They can have multiple attributes. An example, the anchor tag has the href attribute. The href attribute tells the anchor tag where it should go when the link is clicked. Right? For some other attributes on this page, the image has a source attribute, src, source, which tells us where the image is being pulled from. Attributes. The H1, actually, every single HTML element, no matter which one, well, all of them that are visible can also have a style attribute. Okay? So, the way you do it is style equals, and then like all the attributes have the same form. It's attribute name, the equals sign, and then something inside quotes, right? You can use single or double quotes. I use double quotes just because that's how I was raised, but it honestly doesn't matter. Just be consistent. If you use double quotes, use double quotes. If you use single. Don't mix them because it's confusing. I'm going to use double quotes because, like I said, that's just the way my mama raised me. So style equals, and now I'm going to pull up one of the references that we have. I mean, I know these, but I feel like you should see me use them. I'm going to open this. I'm going to change the color, right? So let's click on color. Okay, and here's all the different kinds of color that you can change, right? Starting, it's kind of annoying. It kind of jumps down the page. But so there's color, which is the color of text, okay? And then there's opacity, which is the opacity level for an element. Right? Do you guys know what opacity is? It's like transparency, alpha, right? Okay. And then we have background, which is a shorthand property for setting all the background properties in one declaration. That's confusing. Let's just look at this. Background color specifies the background color of an element, all right? So these two make sense. Let's just roll with these two. So let's set color first. And then if you click further, you can get more information. Now, you'll notice that there's these, like just using regular words, right? Like we learned before that you use these hex values to create colors, right? And this is totally the way to do it, or a way to do it. But you can also specify color in other ways. You can do it as a word for certain colors. There's like a list somewhere. I'm sure you can find it if you look for it. It's like the HTML, CSS word colors. Like there's some that are weird, like white smoke is an actual color name that you can use. Yeah, swear to God. Yeah, there's a bunch. And then, you can specify it by hex value, and you can even use this, the RGB value. So 00 to 55. I mean, they're all the same, but I usually use this one. It's more convenient, and it's just, if you have Illustrator or Photoshop open, you can kind of just get your colors like that. So I use the eyedropper to get it. Wait, I got to know now. Bam, here's a list of all the color names, right? A lot. Dark salmon. That's an actual color. Dark salmon. Dark salmon's a color. Amazing. All right, so.
Olive green.
Wow. No, olive drab. All right, cool. So these are like real colors. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. Okay.
Blue. What's that?
I don't know. So let's try it out. Let's see if Alice Blue. Some of these colors don't always work. So let's try this. Oh God! Again with the spinnies. I spent half my life looking at those things. All right. So let's do. You know what I think the problem is? I just have too much shit open. All right. So let's do color. Remember, property, colon, and then value. Alice Blue. And then how do we end the declaration? Semicolon. Notice that we're not putting this in the curlies, right? It's because inline style has a different syntax. We do it like this. Property name, colon. Property value, semicolon. If I want to add another property, I do, right after this colon, I would do property name, colon. Property value, semicolon. I can even show you that. So we'll do background color. Background color. Old lace. Is this right? I've never seen these colors used before. Let's try them out. Let's see if they work. I have no idea. Okay. So this is what we're changing, right? It should be Alice Blue with something background. There we go. That's terrible, but So yeah, and sure enough, oh weird, old lace rendered as this like yellow color. I thought it was gonna be. Oh, sorry, I was looking at navy. I can't even read it. Let's change it real quick. So background color, navy. All right, and back here. Cool. Okay, so that's CSS done in line. Now,
You said that's the wrong way, that's the ugly.
the worst way. And like, I hope it's already becoming apparent why this is bad. Like, look how, like, our HTML went from being, like, compact and expressive to now, like, it's this, all this stuff is here. It's all on one line, right? And you can't really use line breaks here. It has to be on one line. So it's just this ugly, big thing. And now my content's all pushed over. It just sucks. This is bad.
Yeah, one quick question.
Yeah.
Why there's no semicolon behind
Because I forgot. So here's actually an interesting feature of CSS. And this is something, you never teach this, but it's true. If you leave off the last semicolon, it's fine. This one you need. So let's like, I'll get rid of it, right? Right? Let's just use a space. Wrong. Just loses all formatting. And if you look at the H1 here in the styles, oh, look at this. It even has like, wah. It tells you you done bad, you done goofed. Mouse over it, and it'll tell you invalid property value. Remember, property name, property value. That's not it, because it thinks that you just wrote Alice blue background color name. It doesn't understand. That's why you need to put the semicolon. Syntax, super important here. And this is the kind of stuff that'll trip you up. Like you'll have something, you'll be sitting there like, why doesn't it look the way it's supposed to look? And the reason generally is because you forgot a semicolon, or you forgot a curly, or you forgot an equal sign, or something stupid. So like, it's really, you have to really look at like every character, right? Every line. And the other thing is, if you look at every single character and you're sure that it should work, then the problem could be somewhere else. You might be looking at the wrong file. You might have edited the file and have it somewhere else, and you're looking at the wrong thing. Like, so you should trust yourself to a degree, but also make sure that you know what every single line of your file is doing. Like, we're early enough yet that you should be able to look at what you're doing and know what every line does, right? Like, we're not looking at anything complex yet. Like, you should know what every line means. So if this is bad, I mean, if this is ugly, here, let's go back in time. Cool. If this is ugly, then let's go to the bad way, right? The bad way is I call it bad, but it's actually not the worst thing. You actually see this used a lot. If you have a site that's exactly one page long, I could see doing this, right? If your site's any more than one page, if you have 2 pages linked together, then you should not do this. But if you're only one, I'll accept it. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a style tag within the head tag. Does everyone know what the head tag is? It's one of those boring tags, right? Do you remember the boring tags we talked about? This, way up here. HTML, we have the head tag right here. It's where our title is. So remember, the head tag, everything in the head tag is kind of invisible, and it's used by your browser and by other machines to interpret your page. So it makes sense that it would go in the head. We're basically saying this is all the style information for this page. So let's just type out a style tag. You know, style. It's good to begin it and close it. And then let's go ahead and type that code out. Remember, where was my example? This right here. So let's type this. Copy this over here. Paste. Oh, shit. Just make it look pretty. Get rid of extra lines. There's no reason we shouldn't be perfect, right? There's no reason to not be perfect. Save it. I got rid of this. Nope, I didn't. Let me get rid of this crap. All right. Bam. Cleaner, right? Our HTML's back, right? Looks good. So let's go ahead and check this out. Does everybody make sense? Does this make sense? Do we get what this is about to do? Right? So we're saying every H1 tag on this page, make the text color white and make the background color blue. Cool. All right. So let's go here. We're looking at this bad boy, and there it is. Blue's horrendous, but it is what it is, right? It's ours, and the text is white, so this worked. You can see it here, and that worked. Oh, another cool thing about you guys remember how to access this, right? This panel, and this is you can do this on every page. The way you do it, you right-click anywhere on your page, and you go to Inspect Element at the bottom, and it opens this cool thing up, and then you can click through, your whole site. So if you mouse over, it shows you. So I'm going to click Article. I'm going to expand it. I'm going to click on H1, and then I'm going to look in my Styles tab down here, and it shows me all the styles that are on this element. So in this case, my H1 has color white, background color blue. Now, one cool thing you can do is if you want to experiment with some stuff, and you don't want to be editing your file, saving, going over, refresh. That cycle gets tedious. You can just edit this. So let's do navy, and now it's navy. That's cool. The thing to keep in mind is that I just edited this page just in my browser. Like I didn't change my file, right? Like I could do this on anybody's website. I can go to I can go to Google. I can say blah blah blah. I can go to the body tag and I can say you click into this where it says element.style. Click in here. I'm gonna go background color. I can just tab and I'm gonna say orange, and I can make it orange. Like, did I actually change Google's background color for 6 billion people? No. I just changed it for me on my computer. But this is a cool way of prototyping colors and of just trying out neat stuff on a web page. So I use it a lot. Although what sucks is that sometimes you'll end up doing so much work here changing these values, and then you'll realize oh geez, I don't remember what I changed. And now you have to incorporate those changes back into your CSS. So, I'll let you get burned on that a couple times before you learn the right way to not do it. But it is a useful tool to edit in the browser like this. Okay, so we just edited something. Now this is, like I said, this is it's not ugly, but it's certainly not good. It's bad, right? Why is it bad? It's bad because let's say we have a website, not just a page, but a site. Let's say we have 10 pages, right? And let's say every page has this very similar structure, right, as websites do. You got your nav, your header, right? And then here you've got an article and then an H1 tag. Now let's say on every single page on this website, we want our H1s to have a consistent look and feel, right, which is normal. And let's say those H1s are white color, blue background color. Now, if we have this page 10 different times, and we have this style tag in every single page, what if we want to change our background color from blue to, navy, right? Now you have to change that in 10 different files, right?
Yeah.
Right? That's how you do it. And sure, 10 files, not that bad. But what if it's 20, right? You shouldn't be doing that, right? You should want to not repeat the same action over and over again. So the solution here is what we do is we take all of the stuff that goes in this style tag and we put it in an external file. So it's the same way that if you have a logo here, if you have 10 pages on your website, would you have 10 copies of a logo? No. You would link to the same logo on every page. The same with our styles. We don't use the same 10 style sheets on our site. We create one, it's called the style sheet, one style sheet, and we link to it from our webpage. So let's do that now. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. I'm going to get rid of this lame style tag. Oh, by the way, style tags don't have to be in the head. You can totally put them anywhere you want. Okay, so the way that we do this is with the link tag. So the good. Use a separate file. And hopefully this makes sense why this is the right way to do it. Spelled separate wrong. No one noticed. Cool. So you do link. This What's the name of the tag? Link. How many attributes does it have? 2 attributes. The first one is called rel. I kind of forgot what that stands for. I think it's related, like the relationship of this link. Yeah. Like it's a style sheet. You write rel equals style sheet. You don't, this is another one of those things, you don't have to have this. If you don't have this, the browser will recognize it, but it's considered good practice to include this. It's more explicit and it kind of future-proofs you. And then we have href. This should look familiar from the A tag, right? And href, it's the hyperlink reference, right? So, and that should equal the path to the file. We talked about paths. That was in preparation for this, so hopefully this makes a little more sense. So let's create a file. So we're gonna create a style sheet. That's what this is called. A style sheet is just a bunch of style declarations in a file. That is it. So let's name our file. Or yeah, let's create it and then we'll link it in. We'll create a new file. So as far as best practice on your style sheet naming, it's kind of all over the place. A lot of people just call their file styles. You would always try to use the extension CSS on your file. So your files, style sheets should always end with .css. Okay? Yeah, and that really doesn't change. They're always .css. So I think a good name for this file would just be styles.css. That's a pretty standard name for a style sheet. So we're going to save it. Once again, I'm going to include it next to all my other files, which I'm just throwing them on my desktop for now. I should probably be using a separate folder for this. Yeah, I feel like that's just really poor organization on my part. Kind of jumped into this example without doing that, so I'm going to continue to not do that. But just know that you should probably put all this in a single folder. Should we do that? Let's redo it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
What are you saying then? You should put your style sheet in the same folder with your HTML or
Yeah.
a different folder?
Yeah, it should be in this. I mean, for now, we're going to do it in the same
It's like
folder.
a project folder.
Yeah, exactly. It should be a project folder. So we're going to call this my site. I'm going to pull in sample. I'm going to pull in, is that it? Is that the only file I have? Where was that image? Oh, the image is like linked. Yeah, but that's like linked out somewhere else, huh? Yeah, let's pull it back in. Jeez, you guys keeping me honest. Okay, it was in here, right? Yeah. Look at that. And now I'm going to open this inside of my editor. Of course, now it's going to like hate me. Okay, sample. So I'm going to reference the images. Yeah, I got to change my reference because I moved it. Okay, cool. So now, I don't know if you can, it's kind of hard to see this, but we've got my HTML file, sibling to that, the images directory. And now we're going to create our CSS file, right? So the same way that we put our images into an images folder, we could put our CSS into a style sheet folder. We don't have to. For a larger site, you absolutely will always want to use a separate folder for your CSS. The conventions there are sometimes people call the folder just CSS, and sometimes they'll call it styles. Sometimes you'll even see style sheets written out. Personally, I prefer to just call it CSS. So I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it CSS. Here it is. Inside of that, I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it styles.css. There it is. I know it's kind of hard to read. Oh, I already have it. You know, whatever. Okay. Oh well, this is what it is. So what we're going to do in here. Oh, nice. I still had it in the thing. I'm just going to paste in the styles the exact same way it was in the style tag, right? I don't add anything else to this file. It's literally 4 lines long, and it's the stuff that we copied. That's it. So now I'm going to go back to my sample.html file. Well, I got to copy this first. So I want this, right? Link tag. Bam. Where was I? Okay. Now this goes in the head, right? So let's put it, enter, paste. So the only problem is this is not right? So what's the path to my CSS file right now? This is probably hard to see, right? Here, I'm going to open up the file so you guys can see it. So this is the file that we're looking at, right? This is the file we're in right now. So what's the path to my CSS file? CSS slash and the file name. Yeah. So yeah, the first. Remember, these are siblings. So my path is, if I'm right here and I'm looking for this file, the path to get there is I go to CSS and then I go to styles.css. So the way we write that out is, oh, nice. So it's CSS slash styles.css. Remember, I could also, if I wanted, do this directory slash. If I want to, I can do that. Let's not do that though. It's unnecessary. This works. So now we're going to link in CSS styles, and let's see if this works. So remember, this is the text we're affecting. I moved it, right? Okay, so where did I move it? My site, right? So it'll be in my underscore site slash sample.html. And look at that. Let's refresh to make sure it's not cached. Sometimes that happens. No, that's it. It works. And if you look in here, head, there's our link, right? And now let's actually click down here. You guys need to see this a little better. Hello? Yeah, there we go. Okay. Let's click on this H1, and bam, see that? H1, color white, background color navy, and it even says where this occurs. So it says styles.css line 1. So if I click on this, it takes me to the declaration. Can I change this? Yeah, you can. That's cool. So you can kind of play around with the styles if you want. And that is a style sheet. All right, so yeah, there we go. A bit of pedantry. So there's dry versus wet. Dry, D-R-Y. Don't repeat yourself. Don't repeat yourself. Or there's the opposite of don't repeat yourself is write everything twice. Also known as we enjoy typing. That's the wet approach. You should always go for this. Unless you don't value your time, right, then you should try to not repeat yourself. If you like wasting your time and wasting other people's time, then by all means, write everything twice. And this refers to a lot of things. I think immediately one example we saw was in the style sheets. If you find yourself writing inline styles, I guarantee you you're going to be copying and pasting and writing those same inline styles 5 or 6 times. You might as well find a way to have them in one place so that instead of changing something 10 times, you can change it 1 time and it affects 10 different things. That's the beauty of automating things and of using computers to solve problems is you don't have to like cut something out and do a specific solution for every instance. You can take 10 different instances of something and change one variable that cascades all through all of them, right? So this is just an important concept to understand. And we have 4 minutes and a few slides. I knew we weren't going to get to this. I can't tell if, yeah, I think like I covered more last time in this, but I don't think people understood it as well. So I think I'd rather go slower and have you understand it than go fast and lose you. Cool. So we've talked about cascading style sheets, right? That's what CSS stands for. We We got that, right? Cascading. Do you guys know what cascade means?
Needs to push forward or something?
Yeah, it's kind of to flow. Like you think of like a waterfall, right? A waterfall kind of cascades down. There's sheets of water that kind of are flowing on top of other sheets of water, and it creates this cascading effect. So the way that relates to style sheets is that you can have an initial kind of base style, and then you can override it, right? So you might say all H1s on our website have background blue and are color white. But then later, you might define a special kind of H1 that has an orange background and green text, right? You might decide you want to do that. But that, there are rules that determine how you can override a style rule, right? Those important rules are the importance, and this is how important the selector is. Importance is based off of kind of the complexity of the selector. And there is a hierarchy for what's more important. Don't dwell on this, just know importance, specificity, and source order. Specificity is how specific is the selector you write. Up until now, all we've looked at is the H1 selector, right? Like H1 is, that's just the name of an element, right? That's it. So that's as specific as you can get. We haven't learned about classes or IDs yet, so, but that's coming. And then source order, when we say the source, we refer to our CSS file itself. If a declaration is defined, and then you define it later on, the one that's defined later on is actually the one that takes precedence. That's better explained with an example. That one we can actually show an example for. The other two we're not quite there yet. So in this styles.css, if I go ahead, come on, in 1 minute, killing me. Can we go like a couple minutes over?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I will swear it won't be too much more.
No.
Just a couple minutes. All right. I just closed it. Okay. So if we define this H1, and then immediately after it, we define the same thing, but with color orange, what's going to happen?
They will take the second one. They'll override with the first one.
You're going with orange?
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody else? What do you think?
Overwrite.
No, wait, what color is it going to be? Is it going to be white or is it going to be orange?
Orange.
Orange. We all think orange. Does anyone think it's going to be white? Don't be afraid to speak up if you think it's going to be white. Anybody? No one's wrong? Well, as we just saw, source order, the last overrides anything that came before it.
Right.
So it will be orange, and we can test that. Got it? And there it is. Text is orange. In a simple example, it doesn't really affect it too much, but you can kind of contrive an example where instead of having just one style sheet, what if you had 2 or 3 style sheets, right? And now the order actually matters. It actually matters in the sense of if you have a style sheet defined here and then one defined after it, so we have 2 style sheets. See? And we call it, styles 2 or whatever. If you define an H1 in styles 2, it's going to override what happened in styles 1.
So that's still an example of source order?
Yeah, so that's kind of 2 examples. So it matters in how it's, the order in which it's linked, and then it also matters in the order in which it appears in the file. The later stuff overrides the earlier stuff. Yeah. So a lot of times you look at a CSS file, and you'll be like, I don't understand. It's white. It's right here. Why isn't it working? And then you look further down the file, and you realize, shit, it's orange. I realize. A better way to see that, though, is to just look at your, once again, we make sure our inspect element is selected. We go to elements here. Elements is all of your HTML elements. We look at the H1, and we can click it and look. We can see, aha, color was defined here, but notice how it struck through, right? Because it got overridden. So it was defined on line 1 and was overridden on line 6. So the later source order takes precedence over the prior source. Okay. I did practice. It's 8:52. I feel like I have another solid 23 minutes before I get through what I want to talk about. So I'll have to cut the assignment. I mean, I want you to do something this week. So the assignment I've given is maybe more than what you could handle. But essentially it was taking the HTML that you did and add some styles to it. So I'll go back. I mean, really, because we need to learn about stuff like classes and combinators and pseudo selectors and the box model and box sizing and don't call it a hashtag and classes and all that stuff. So we haven't hit that yet. We'll do that next week though, because it's important stuff. Like we don't want to just gloss over it. I feel like it's much more important to have you understand it than to just gloss over it. So really, using the HTML and CSS you've learned so far, add some styles to the HTML that we worked on last week. You might find that you want to add some more HTML tags in order to style your stuff better. So feel free to do that. You don't have to. You're not tied to the structure that you did. If you want to add other tags too, for whatever reason, to try something out, do that as well. But really, it's more about just using the correct syntax for your HTML and CSS. If you write any new HTML, make sure it's semantically correct. When you're writing your CSS, don't repeat yourself. Try to use, well, that makes more sense when we're using classes, but we didn't learn about that, so I can't really speak to that. But definitely try to use an external file. Get it working. Organize your files for freedom's sake. There's no excuse for sloppy indenting and poor formatting. There really isn't. You should know what every single line of your file is doing. If you don't know, ask me. So deliver this get it to me before class. I like a zip file for this if you can. Do you guys know how to zip a file? Yeah. So this should essentially be, if you did it right, there should be one HTML file and one or more, really one CSS file. Should just be 2 files. So if you have trouble zipping and you just want to send me 2 files, that's okay too. I do prefer a zip file. When you zip your file, just do me a favor, put your name in the zip file. Name in the zip. I should put that. I'm gonna write that into this. Deliver files as a zip with your name in the file name. Darius Daftari week 3.zip. Bam, like that. Do it like I did it. Cool.
And we'll be able to access this once again online with
Yeah.
that same link that you gave us already.
Yeah, this goes in. They all go to the same place pretty much.
Right.
Yeah. Publish, embed, publish, publish. Bam. And yeah. Class is dismissed. It's one of my favorite things to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? I'm here always for questions. Or you can just, get lost. It's up to you. It's up to you. I love answering questions though, even if it doesn't seem like I do. What the fuck was I doing? I want to put this up like right now. Hello. Oh. Man. Nasty. Shit. Cool. Cool. Oopsie. Does anyone? Oh, no one has their computers open. Damn it! It's so weird to me. No one takes notes on their computer. It's so odd. Cool. It should be up there. Okay. All right.